Power doesn't disappear overnight. It drains the same way water leaks from an old clay jar, quietly, drop by drop, until one day the jar feels lighter in your hands and you wonder when the change even began. That's how civilizations decline. Ibn Khaldun mapped this decline with the precision of an engineer and the honesty of a man who had seen too much political chaos. He didn't blame fate. He didn't blame enemies. He didn't blame bad luck. He blamed patterns, predictable, recurring patterns, built into human nature itself. Let's walk through the cycle. Stage 1. Hardship creates unity. In the beginning, people struggle together. Not the romantic struggle modern people like to post online, but real struggle, hunger, danger, cold nights, the threat of losing everything. Hardship forces cooperation. It also forces hierarchy. Someone must lead, and the rest must follow for the group to survive. Ibn Khaldun called this the stage of asabiya at its peak. Everyone feels responsible. Everyone contributes. Everyone sacrifices. It's the same chemistry you see in families that survived war or poverty. They trust each other more. They work harder. They waste less. They don't complain about inconvenience because they've tasted real difficulty. Psychologists today would call this high social capital. Ibn Khaldun simply called it strength. Stage 2. Strength creates power. Once unity is strong enough, a group rises. They build institutions. They establish law. They create stability. But here is where the danger begins. When a society becomes powerful, its people start to forget the price paid for that power. They think the strength came from their brilliance, not their unity. They think their institutions are strong by themselves, not because the people inside once believed in something bigger than comfort. It's the same mistake we see in big companies today. The first generation sacrifices, the second maintains, the third destroys. I've seen this pattern in government, corporations, even families. By the time the third generation arrives, the mindset is different. What can I take? Not, what must I protect? Ibn Khaldun said that after victory, leaders stop being guardians and start behaving like owners. And once leadership becomes about privilege instead of duty, the rot begins. Stage 3. Comfort creates weakness. When people grow up in safety, they lose the instincts that built the safety. They expect things to work. They expect things to stay stable. They expect others to carry the burden. Ibn Khaldun observed that the grandchildren of conquerors inherit wealth, not discipline. They inherit security, not sacrifice. They enjoy luxury without understanding the heavy cost paid to build it. And once comfort becomes the new normal, even the smallest inconvenience feels unbearable. He wrote that comfort softens the heart, weakens the will, and dissolves the glue that holds a society together. Luxury doesn't just spoil individuals. It dissolves asabiya. People stop identifying with the group. They start identifying with themselves. Family over tribe, tribe over nation, personal desire over common purpose. The society becomes a collection of individuals living under the same flag, but no longer sharing the same soul. Stage 4. Fragmentation invites collapse. By this stage, the society may still look strong on the outside. Tall buildings, big armies, loud displays of confidence, but inside, tensions multiply. People compete instead of cooperate. Trust evaporates, institutions become performative, rules become negotiable, and every group retreats into its own bubble. The rope that once held everyone together begins to fray. Ibn Khaldun said that when rulers start relying on outsiders, mercenaries, or paid loyalty instead of genuine solidarity, the dynasty is already dying. It's the same today when nations rely on systems, not citizens, on surveillance, not trust, on incentives, not shared values. A society held together by force is already past its peak. A society held together by fear is already in decline. A society held together only by laws, not loyalty, is weakening faster than anyone realizes. And then the final stage arrives, stage 5. A hungrier group replaces them. Ibn Khaldun's hardest truth is this: civilizations are not destroyed. They are replaced by people who still have the hunger, who still have unity, who still have something to fight for. Just like strong muscles fade when you stop training, asabiya decays when a society stops valuing the old virtues: discipline, sacrifice, duty, honor, togetherness. The tragedy is that most societies only realize this when it's too late. When someone stronger, poorer, hungrier stands at the door. We think collapse is dramatic, but according to Ibn Khaldun, Collapse is mostly quiet. A tired leader, a divided people, a confused identity, a generation raised without struggle. And one day, the rope snaps. In the next part, we confront the uncomfortable conclusion. What Ibn Khaldun would tell us today about saving a society that has grown too comfortable, too divided, too tired to see its own decline. And the brutal truth he left behind, the truth most modern people don't want to hear.